Have you ever looked around your home and thought, maybe it's time to downsize, maybe I should just move in with the kids? It's a thought many of us have. After all, who wouldn't want a little extra help around the house, someone nearby in case of emergencies, and more time with the grandkids? It sounds so reasonable, so comforting. But what if I told you that this very decision, this seemingly logical step, could quietly start to unravel the life you've worked decades to build? No one tells you this, but for thousands of seniors across the country, moving in with adult children starts with love and ends with loss. Not because their children are unkind or uncaring, but because once you live under someone else's roof, everything shifts. Control, space, voice, freedom, they don't vanish all at once. They fade, slowly, silently, and sometimes permanently. Today, I want to talk to you like a friend. Not to scare you, but to open your eyes to what can happen if you make this move without protecting yourself first. In this video, we'll talk about 5 key rights that many older adults unknowingly give up when they move in with their children. And most importantly, I'll share ways you can hold on to these rights, because your dignity and independence matter at every stage of life. Let's begin with something most people don't even realize they're losing until it's gone: your privacy. When you've had your own home for 30, 40, or even 50 years, you get used to a certain rhythm. You wake up when you want. You fix your morning tea just the way you like it. You call a friend, listen to music, take a nap, sit in silence. You go about your day without thinking twice about who's around or what they think. But when you move into your child's house, especially when they have their own spouse, children, or routines, suddenly that peace gets interrupted. Take Frank, for instance, a retired accountant from Wisconsin. After losing his wife, his daughter Melissa invited him to live in her newly renovated basement. "Dad, there's plenty of space," she said. And Frank thought, why not? It felt like the right thing to do. But a few months in, he realized that he had to ask before turning up the thermostat. He started knocking before entering the kitchen. His evening glass of wine? Suddenly a topic of discussion. His things were moved. His schedule shifted. And slowly, it stopped feeling like his home. It wasn't that Melissa was unkind, she just had a different way of doing things. But Frank? He no longer had a space to call his own. Now, imagine losing the comfort of your morning routine. Imagine having to explain why you want to spend time alone, or feeling uncomfortable having a private phone call because someone might overhear. That sense of safety, of sacred personal space, it's not a luxury. It's a human need. And it's essential to your mental and emotional health. In fact, studies from the National Institute on Aging show that older adults who lose their privacy report significantly higher levels of anxiety and depression within just the first year of living with adult children. It's not just about space. It's about being seen, respected, and allowed to exist fully as yourself. Raymond, a retired teacher who moved in with his daughter's family in Florida, shared something that broke my heart. His grandchildren would run into his room unannounced. His daughter reorganized his drawers while he was out. His son-in-law borrowed his headphones without asking. But the real blow came when he found out his daughter had read his journal. When he confronted her, she shrugged and said, "Dad, we don't keep secrets in this house." And that was the moment he realized his private world no longer existed. If you're ever in this position, please don't assume boundaries will naturally be respected. They have to be set, clearly, lovingly, and ahead of time. Whether it's a private entrance, a rule about knocking before entering, or simply having a space where your belongings won't be touched, protecting your privacy should never feel like asking too much. Because it's not. Now let's talk about something just as personal: your finances. Here's a hard truth. 68% of seniors who move in with their children report losing meaningful control over their money within the first 6 months. And no, it's not always because their kids are trying to take advantage. Most of the time, it starts with good intentions. "Mom, let me help you with your online banking." Or, Let's simplify your bills so I can keep track. But over time, helping turns into managing. Managing turns into controlling. And before you know it, you're asking for permission to spend your own money. Dorothy, a retired librarian from Ohio, shared a story that I think about often. After a minor fall, her son suggested she move in. She was sharp, capable, and financially independent. But within weeks, things changed. She ordered a thoughtful, slightly pricey gift for her granddaughter's birthday, something special from her. Her son intercepted the package and returned it. He told her it was wasteful and that he'd buy something more appropriate instead. When she objected, he reminded her she was living in his house, using his electricity, eating his food. His message was clear. Her money, her choices, her independence, none of it mattered now. Can you imagine having to justify your spending after managing your household for decades? After saving, planning, budgeting, and providing, not being able to buy what you want without someone else weighing in? Here's what I want every woman watching this to remember. Your money is part of your freedom. Once you give up control, it's incredibly hard to get it back. So if you're thinking about moving in with your children, or you're already there, it's absolutely essential to set boundaries around money from day one. Have your own bank account. Handle your own bills. Talk openly, but make it clear. You've spent a lifetime building financial wisdom, and you deserve to keep using it. If you need help, ask for support, not permission. And if you're already seeing red flags, don't wait. Speak up. Reset expectations. You don't have to apologize for wanting to keep what's yours. Because here's the truth, no one says out loud. When you stop controlling your money, when you stop deciding how to live in your own space, you start giving pieces of yourself away. And those pieces are hard to get back. That's why we need to have these conversations, not out of fear, but out of love. Love for the life we've built. Love for our own dignity. And love for the years still ahead, filled with choices we deserve to make for ourselves. Let's keep going. You know, something I've noticed, and maybe you have too, is how quickly little decisions start slipping away once you live in someone else's home. You don't even realize it's happening at first. It starts with small things. What time dinner is, what's on the TV, when the lights go out. But over time, those little things add up, and suddenly, you're not making your own choices anymore. Carol, a 71-year-old former business owner, moved in with her daughter after a knee surgery. At first, she was grateful for the help. It felt like a short-term plan, just until she healed. But before long, she noticed the schedule in the house wasn't really hers anymore. Her daughter's family ate early, went to bed early, and didn't really enjoy the same shows or routines that Carol had always loved. "I've always been a night owl," she told me. But suddenly, I was expected to be in bed by 9:30 because the whole house shuts down then. She couldn't choose what she wanted for dinner. She ate what was served. She couldn't even take her own car out without checking in first, because her daughter worried about her being out alone. At one point, her daughter even started laying out her clothes for the day. Now, let me ask you something. How would you feel if someone started deciding what you wore each morning? If they questioned whether you should be driving or told you when you could eat? Not because you were ill or unable, but just because they thought it was best? For Carol, the worst part wasn't the control. It was the feeling that her voice didn't matter anymore. When she tried to speak up, her daughter told her she was being difficult, that she should be grateful. So Carol stopped speaking up. She stopped choosing. She just stopped. And that's the danger. When we lose decision-making power over our daily lives, we start to believe we're no longer capable. It's called learned helplessness, and it's more than just a sad feeling. It can lead to faster mental and physical decline. Because when you're treated like you can't make decisions, your mind and body start believing it. That's why it's so important to set the tone early. Before you move in with anyone, talk openly about your lifestyle, your schedule, your habits, your preferences. Write them down if you need to. Make sure everyone understands that you're not becoming a child again. You are still you, capable, thoughtful, and deserving of autonomy. And if you're already living with family and feeling like your choices are slipping away, start small. Choose your own clothes again. Plan one of the meals. Make a decision, just one. That's yours and yours alone. Then build from there. Because every choice you reclaim is a step back toward the life you deserve. Now let's talk about something that feels even more serious, and frankly, more frightening, because it can affect not just your comfort, but your safety and your future. I'm talking about your legal and medical rights. When you live alone, no one questions who's in charge of your health, your finances, or your future plans. You go to the doctor, you speak for yourself. You handle your paperwork, you make your decisions. But when you move in with your child, even if you're sharp, healthy, and completely in control, something strange can start to happen. Doctors begin to talk to your son or daughter instead of you. Pharmacists call them instead of you. Insurance reps, even lawyers, start to assume that they're the ones handling things now. And you become the background. That's exactly what happened to Dr. Allen, an 80-year-old retired physician who moved in with his son after his wife passed away. He was still mentally sharp. He practiced medicine for over 40 years. But at his first checkup after moving, the doctor barely looked at him. Instead, she turned to his son and said, "So, how's Dad been feeling?" Can you imagine that? You're a medical professional, you're perfectly capable, and yet suddenly people are speaking about you rather than to you. Dr. Allen asked a question during the appointment, and the doctor responded to his son instead of answering him. "It was like I'd vanished," he told me. "Like I wasn't a person anymore. Just a patient. A burden." And this isn't rare. Research from Georgetown's Elder Law Center shows that once seniors move in with adult children, healthcare providers are 64% more likely to address the child first, even when there's no evidence of cognitive decline. It's called presumptive incapacity. It doesn't mean you're actually incapable. It just means people assume you are because of where and how you live. But it gets even more serious. In some states, your living arrangement can influence guardianship decisions. That means if your adult child ever tried to pursue legal control over your finances, medical care, or living situation, the court could favor them, simply because you're already dependent on their household. That's a risk no one talks about. Now, I want to be clear. This doesn't mean your children have bad intentions. Most don't. They love you. They want to help. But even loving children can make choices for you instead of with you. And once those patterns start, they're hard to undo. That's why you need to protect yourself before the lines get blurred. Start by speaking with an elder law attorney. Set up legal documents that spell out your wishes, things like a durable power of attorney, a healthcare directive, and a living will. These are not just pieces of paper. They are your voice, written down, in case anyone ever tries to speak over you. Second, make a written agreement with your child before moving in. Clearly state that your legal and medical decisions remain yours, unless you choose otherwise. Not because you distrust them, but because you trust yourself. And because you've earned the right to keep steering your own life. And please don't assume that being healthy now means you don't need to worry. These documents aren't for today, they're for every tomorrow, just in case. And having them in place gives you peace of mind, so you can enjoy life without the shadow of what-ifs. Because here's the truth, your voice matters. Your choices matter. And your role in your own life should never be diminished just because you share a roof with someone else. Let's keep going. There's one more part of this puzzle that's easy to overlook, but deeply felt over time, and that's your social freedom. When you move in with your children, you don't just change addresses. You change circles. You change rhythms. You change relationships. And for many women I've spoken to, that's where the loneliness begins. Let's think about it for a moment. Maybe you've spent years building a little social world that brings you joy. Friends from church, your weekly card group, book club, volunteer work, that neighbor you wave to from the porch each morning. These aren't just activities. They're connections. They're the heartbeat of your independence, the reminders that you still belong to a life that's yours. Now imagine packing up, leaving that behind, and landing in a place where you don't know anyone except the family you're now living with. They're busy. Work, school, errands, activities. And suddenly, you're waiting for someone else to drive you to the store. You hesitate to invite friends over because it's not really your home. Your phone rings less. Your calendar is blank. And before you even realize it, the vibrant, connected woman you were starts to fade into the background. Margaret felt it almost immediately. At 76, she left her retirement community in Florida to live with her daughter Lisa in Minnesota. On paper, it made sense. Her health was good, but winter was tough, and Lisa had space. But within weeks, Margaret realized she'd left her world behind. The bridge group, the Sunday luncheons, the little errands she enjoyed doing alone. Now, she was stuck at home while Lisa worked. Her church was too far. Her friends couldn't visit. "My daughter means well," she said, "but she's busy living her life. And I feel like I've stepped out of mine." Maybe you felt something like that too? A slow quietness where there used to be laughter, a dependence on someone else's schedule just to see a familiar face. And the worst part? When you try to talk about it, people say, "But at least you're not alone." But here's the truth. Being with people doesn't mean you're not lonely. Loneliness is about connection, about being seen, heard, and included in a life that feels like yours, not just tolerated in someone else's. Research from Harvard's long-term study on aging and happiness shows that strong, diverse social connections are more powerful for longevity than not smoking or exercising regularly. That's right, your relationships are that important. And when those are taken away, even with the best intentions, it affects not just your mood, but your health, your memory, your energy, and your sense of purpose. So, if you're considering moving in with your kids, ask yourself, what happens to my social life? Can I still go where I want, see who I want, host the people I care about? Will I have access to transportation that doesn't rely on someone else's availability? Will I have a space where guests feel welcome, not like intruders? And if you're already in that situation, don't give up on reconnecting. Reach out to old friends. Join a virtual book club. Look for senior centers or community groups nearby. And most importantly, talk to your family about the value of your relationships. It's not about asking for permission. It's about making sure your life doesn't shrink just because your address has changed. Because your joy matters. Your laughter matters. Your friendships are a vital part of what makes you, you. So, let's take a breath together. We've walked through 5 essential rights that too many seniors lose when they move in with their children. Privacy and personal space. Financial independence and control. Decision-making over daily life. Legal and medical autonomy. And social freedom and independent relationships. And we've seen how these losses don't usually come from malice. They come quietly, slowly, naturally, even lovingly. But once they're gone, they're hard to get back. Frank didn't realize what he was giving up until the thermostat wasn't his to touch. Dorothy didn't know her generosity would be questioned until her son returned the gift she bought. Carol didn't think her bedtime would become a debate. Dr. Allen didn't expect to be spoken about instead of to. And Margaret, Margaret didn't expect to feel so invisible in a house full of people. But you don't have to walk that path, because now you know. You know what to look out for. You know what conversations to have. You know how to protect what matters. And most importantly, you know that your independence is worth protecting. That doesn't mean you shouldn't lean on family. It doesn't mean love isn't real. But love should never come at the cost of your voice, your freedom, or your joy. There are better ways to age with support and dignity. Maybe it's aging in place with part-time help. Maybe it's moving to a senior community near your kids. Maybe it's building a small in-law suite with a separate entrance. The right answer is the one that lets you keep your rights while receiving the care you deserve. Before you give up your keys, give some thought to your future. Before you change your address, make sure you're not trading away the very parts of your life that keep you feeling alive. Set agreements. Have the hard talks. Put things in writing. Because your comfort isn't just about convenience, it's about control, confidence, and peace. And if this conversation spoke to you, I'd love to hear from you. What part of your independence means the most to you? What would be the hardest thing for you to give up? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I promise, your voice matters here. And if you found this helpful, please click that like button so more women like you can find this video too. Subscribe to the channel for more guidance, encouragement, and conversations about living your best, most empowered life at every age. Because aging isn't about fading, it's about choosing how you shine. And you, my friend, deserve to shine bright and free. Here's to your strength, your spirit, and your future. Let's keep choosing ourselves with grace, wisdom, and courage. Always.